The great ship Celestial Symphony was less a vessel and more a floating city, a hub for diplomats, merchants, and artists from 100 species. Its central atrium, the Starlight Concourse, was famous for its nightly performances. Tonight, as always, it was filled with a murmuring crowd of humans. Volpuri with their fine, silken fur, the crystalline glint, and hulking Borin. The air smelled of alien perfumes and recycled oxygen. On a raised platform at the concourse's heart stood the reason for the crowd, a grand piano, a relic of Earth, polished to a mirror sheen. Beside it, a human man in a tailored suit adjusted his cuffs, his expression one of serene superiority. He was the resident artist, the star of the symphony. His music was technically flawless, no perfect renditions of complex classical pieces. The audience listened, appreciative, their applause polite and precise. Far from the stage, in a dimly lit service corridor, another human moved with quiet efficiency. She was a server in the ship's main bistro, her uniform simple, her hands more accustomed to the weight of trays than the weight of keys. Her shift had ended, and she moved through the service entrance into the concourse, drawn as always by the music. She lingered in the shadow of a great hydroponic fern, her eyes on the piano. She had not touched a piano in 3 years, not since the incident that had stripped her family of everything. The instrument on stage was a twin to the one they had sold. The memory was a physical ache. The pianist finished his piece, a difficult concerto, and took a shallow bow. The applause came again, a wave of polite sound. As it faded, a Volpari diplomat commented to his Borin companion, his voice carrying, "Adequate. Human music is so mathematically rigid. It lacks a soul." The words hung in the air. The star pianist, overhearing, flushed but offered a tight smile. He had no rebuttal. The server in the shadows felt old, familiar heat rise in her chest. It was not anger at the Volpari, who simply spoke his truth, but at the resignation in her fellow human's face. The moment stretched, uncomfortable. Then a sharp, discordant hum erupted from the ship's public address system. Lights flickered. A ship-wide alert flashed on displays. Gravitic anomaly detected. Minor system fluctuations. The symphony gave a slight lurch. It was a common enough occurrence in hyperspace lanes, but the effect on the stage was immediate. A service drone, knocked off its programmed path, careened into the piano bench, splintering it. The star pianist jumped back with a sharp cry. The anomaly passed as quickly as it came. Systems stabilized. But the bench was ruined. The event coordinator, a flustered glint whose facets shimmered with anxiety, addressed the crowd. "Our apologies. A minor hyperspace ripple. The performance will resume shortly once a new bench is procured." But a bench was not quickly found. The ship's extensive inventories had everything except a purpose-built piano bench. A chair was brought from the bistro too low, another from the observation deck too high. The star pianist sat on each, made a show of testing his reach, and shook his head. "Impossible," he declared. "The ergonomics are all wrong. I cannot perform under these conditions." His tone was final. A murmur of disappointment spread through the audience. The coordinator's light flickered desperately. From the shadows, the server watched. She looked at the piano, a silent, beautiful beast. She looked at the bistro chair, identical to the ones she lifted and cleaned 100 times a day. She knew its exact height. She knew the give of its padding. A calm certainty settled over her. Before she could second guess, her feet were carrying her forward, out of the shadows and into the light of the stage. She moved past the confused coordinator, past the frowning star. She righted the bistro chair, placed it before the keys, and sat. A whisper ran through the concourse. A server? What was she doing? The star pianist sputtered. "You!" What is the meaning of this? She ignored him. She closed her eyes for a second, not for drama, but to find the center of the quiet within her. The world shrank to the space between her and the instrument. Her hands, which had just hours ago wiped down tables, lifted. They hovered above the ivory keys, and for a terrible second, the crowd wondered if this was a foolish prank. Then she began dot. It was not the rigid concerto of before. It was something else entirely. The first notes were soft, a questioning melody that seemed to drift like stardust. It was simple, haunting. Then her left hand stirred, adding a deep, rolling harmony that spoke of ancient oceans. The melody began to weave through it, gaining strength, telling a story without words. She played of loss. The notes held the quiet emptiness of a home after everything is gone, the echo in a souled room. The Volpari diplomat leaned forward, his ears twitching. He had never heard mathematics express such emptiness. Then the music shifted. It was the same theme, but now it fought. The bass became a resilient pulse, a heartbeat against the dark. The right hand launched into a flurry of movement, not the sterile precision of before, but something fierce and alive. It was the struggle to get up every morning, the dignity in a simple task done well, the unsung perseverance of a life rebuilt piece by piece. A Boran in the audience felt a strange tightness in his chest, a resonance with battles of a different kind. The star pianist stood frozen, his earlier arrogance replaced by dawning shock. This was no parlor trick. This was mastery of a different order. The server lost all awareness of the crowd, the ship, her uniform. She was in the music. It swelled into a defiant crescendo, the themes of loss and resilience clashing, merging, and finally transforming. It became a song of stubborn, quiet hope, a vision of not just surviving, but finding beauty in the survival itself. It spoke of carrying memory not as a weight, but as a foundation. The glint coordinator's facets reflected the light in dazzling emotional patterns, his crystalline form vibrating with the harmonies dot as the final movement approached. Her hands flew across the keys in a cascade of sound that mimicked the very stars outside the viewport, countless, brilliant, enduring. It was complex beyond measure, yet every note felt inevitable, true. She ended not with a crashing chord, but with a return to that first simple melody, now rich with all that had come before, fading into a silence that was more profound than any sound. For a long moment, there was nothing. No cough, no rustle, no breath. Then the Volpari diplomat rose. He did not clap. Instead, he placed both hands over his heart, a profound gesture of respect among his people. The Boran followed, pounding a fist against his own chest plate, a deep, resonant thump of salute. The glint shimmered in a kaleidoscope of approval. Then the humans rose, and the concourse erupted. The sound was not polite. It was a physical wave of awe, thunderous and sustained. The server opened her eyes, seeming to return from a faraway place. She saw the standing crowd, the gestures of alien respect, and for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. She simply stood, gave a small, awkward nod, and stepped away from the piano. The star pianist was the first to reach her. His face was pale. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice hushed. "I work in the bistro," she said softly. "That was not the work of a bistro server," he said. "That was a message." She met his gaze. "It was just what I had to say." The event coordinator rushed over, his light patterns frantic with excitement. "We must schedule a proper performance. Tomorrow, the main hall." She shook her head. "My shift starts at 07:00. She began to walk away, back toward the service corridor, but the Volpari diplomat intercepted her path. He bowed deeply. "You have shown us," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "that we were mistaken. We heard the numbers before, Tonight, we heard the human soul. It is not rigid. It is. He searched for the word, indomitable. She offered a small, genuine smile. Thank you. News spread through the celestial symphony at light speed. The server completed her shift the next day, but the bistro was packed. Patrons were not there for the food. They came to see her. They asked for nothing, only watched her work with a new reverence. That evening, when she walked into the concourse, the grand piano was waiting. A proper bench had been found, but so had a crowd, larger than any before. The star pianist was there, in the front row. He gave her a firm, respectful nod. She took a deep breath, walked to the center of the stage, and sat. The expectant silence was a living thing. She placed her hands on the keys, no longer just the hands of a server, but the hands of a translator for the human heart. And she began to play again, not from a place of loss, but from a place of arrival. The music soared, filling the great ship, a testament to the quiet strength that often hides in plain sight, waiting for its moment to step from the shadows and astonish the stars.